Monitors. There's so many monitors out there and you're just like, what do I use? Currently, I use with my FX6 the Portkeys HS7T. Now, the reason why I use this one is for the fact that it is SDI. Now, SDI is incredibly sturdy. The B and C cables are just really hard to rip out because of how it locks in comparison to HDMI. Full-size HDMI is perfectly fine when it comes to micro HDMI, like some of the Canon cameras. Like, man. You're crippling yourself, Canon, for doing that. But this is really interesting because this isn't touchscreen, but this one is interesting. This one is wireless control. So you can actually record on here. You can control the aperture, shutter speed, and some of the touch features. LH5P II, touchscreen, Portkeys, 5-inch. We're gonna be talking about this one today. What's going on, my friends? I hope you're all doing absolutely fantastic. And if you are new to my channel, please consider subscribing. Today, we're going to be talking about this one here, the Portkeys LH5P II. Now, this is an interesting monitor specifically for my smaller alpha cameras like the A7IV and the FX30 that's going to be coming, but you can actually utilize this with the FX3, the A7S III, or your other alpha cameras, Canon cameras, whichever cameras you have, and check the availability of if this one is actually going to be connecting to your camera via Bluetooth on their website. I will put a link in the description below so you can see if this actually pairs with your camera, and if it does, that's a goer. That's absolutely a really good thing because this has camera control. This could be so useful in so many different circumstances compared to just a regular monitor where you're just monitoring it, because that's what monitor means. You're monitoring, but if you can actually control it, then that is a whole nother level. Because I mean, how many times do you have a monitor on top of your top handle and you actually have to take a hand off and press record, then put your hand back on, whereas you could literally just touch the screen to record directly through the screen? So many times. It just makes it so much easier and the workflow obviously quicker. And before we get into some of the specs and what you actually get in the box, this is the actual case that it comes with. It's pretty much like a hard Pelican case. Sure, it's not absolutely airtight, but it is a hard case. I haven't actually seen this with a lot of monitors, especially at this price. This is only $399 US. Now, it does come with this cable right here, the LAN C cable. So essentially, you can plug this end directly into the monitor, which is a very well built. It's pretty much slots directly in there and you can't push it forward and back inside because it's kind of like recessed in, and it actually is very stable. And then you can actually connect this directly into your LAN C into the camera. So the FX6, you can actually plug it straight in, and even like the Canon C70, C100, C300, C200, C100 series, you can actually plug the LAN C cable into as well. There are a whole bunch of other manufacturers like Blackmagic, and you can go Panasonic and Zcam as well that this will connect to. Okay, so now one of the biggest reasons why I love Portkeys monitors is the build quality. Now, these aren't plastic. They're very solid, maybe like a magnesium alloy. This one is ridiculously solid. So this is the HS7T. This is crazy solid. It's a 7-inch one. You can see the difference in size between the 7-inch and 5-inch. Obviously, the 7-inch is crazy massive, but it actually has this power pass-through, which is incredible because I can put my Axoon Cine i2S Pro, whatever, the video transmitter on the back because it's MPF pass-through, and I can just power that directly through that. So let's just have a look at some of the features that this thing has, and then we can talk a little bit more about what this thing actually is good for, specifically wireless control when you're using gimbal work, when you're using easy rig work, or even like your budget RE Trinity sort of style cage chest rig thing. We're going to be talking about that. The Portkeys LH5P II is a 2200 nit 5.5-inch IPS touchscreen monitor. It is an all-metal CNC aluminum alloy shell, can be controlled wired or wireless, has a new peaking algorithm to capture more focus, all the fancy settings with peaking, image crop, anamorphic lens calibration, loading LUTs, touch to focus, and 4 customizable buttons. It comes with the remote control cable, power cable, the monitor itself, a USB dongle, all in a nice hard Pelican case. So all this for a total of $399 US. Okay, now I'm not just saying it, but this is one of the best features I've ever seen on a monitor. Now this is grayscale right here. You can actually turn the peaking onto grayscale, or there are a few other different settings like grayscale mid, grayscale high. This is actually going to help you find the peaking, especially if you are focusing on anamorphic lenses where it's not very sharp and it's really hard to grab focus. Like if you've ever manually focused anamorphic lenses on a really low resolution sensor, it actually is extremely difficult. Now it's just gonna make that color of the peaking pop. So you can choose either green, you can choose red, or you can choose blue or white. It really depends on the scene, really depends on what you actually prefer. I usually use green or red. It really depends, but if it is in grayscale, it's just gonna pop so much more, make it so much more easier when you're doing manual focusing. This is massive for people who use manual lenses. Obviously not massive if you use autofocus lenses because, you know, look, it's focusing by itself and you won't really have to worry about focus peaking. But if you're someone who uses manual focus a lot, this is a really good monitor to do manual focus pulls. Now, when it comes to screen brightness, this does claim to be 2200 nits brightness, whereas the Portkeys HS7T tends to be 1200 nits. Now, I kind of go off the Atomos Ninja V. That tends to be, I think it's 1000 nits. Now, if you don't know what a nit is, essentially it's the thing that's in your hair and it's these little white, no, it's not actually, well it is, it's kind of different. But 1 nit is equal to 1 candela. Now 1 candela is, I think it's 1 candle per square meter. So essentially it's just a measurement of how much light is coming off a screen. So 2200 nits on this, 1200 nits on this, and 1000 nits on the Atomos Ninja V. Now, I did compare this against the Atomos Ninja V, and this is brighter than Atomos Ninja V. Now, it's very rare that something claims to be 2000 or 2200 or even brighter nits, and it never usually is brighter than the Atomos Ninja V. So I really trust Atomos's gauge of how bright their screens are. And this one is equivalent to the Atomos. So this one seems like 1000 nits opposed to 1200 nits. Whereas this one, yeah, I guess, you know, I wouldn't say it's 2200 nits. I'd say it's maybe 1500 nits, maybe, but it is brighter. So it's probably the first monitor, actually it's the only monitor that I've got that's brighter than the Ninja V. I've tested so many monitors on this channel and nothing has actually been brighter than the Ninja V, even though they claim it to be brighter. So well done, Portkeys, on this one. Okay, so let's get down to what is actually in this monitor. Now, if you do swipe across, you can actually see that it comes down to a different menu. Now, this is the waveform on the left-hand side. You can toggle that on and off. You've got false color, and essentially you can just toggle them on and off by pressing them, but you can also customize this menu as well. Now, it's pretty easy to customize the menu. All you need to do is click on it, and you can see here, you can literally just choose whichever one you want in these little shortcuts, which makes it obviously easier if you do want to have specific items on certain sides, or you can actually customize it to the function buttons at the top. Now, obviously you can click record here. You can see in this other swipe menu, and you can actually control the shutter speed and the aperture, and also limited to some touch focus features. Now, when it does come to the touch focus features, I really don't think it works very well. Like, you still can, you know, focus a little bit, but yeah, it's not as great as what it is. Obviously on the Sony screens, you literally touch and track the subject, and yeah, it's not that great, but you can adjust the aperture, you can adjust the shutter speed, and obviously you can record as well. I think the record button is probably the biggest one in my opinion, but yeah, sure, you can adjust the aperture and shutter speed as well, which could be extremely handy if you aren't close to your camera, especially if you are on these certain rigs. So overall, when it comes to a camera control monitor, like, this is probably one of the best ones out there, especially for the price of $399. Like, you really can't go wrong with this. It's very well built. It has a whole bunch of touch features. It obviously has a whole bunch of customizable buttons, customizable features. You can control your aperture, your shutter speed, obviously click record as well, and some sort of half-assed focus, but I mean, the focus is okay. It does the job, but well, not really. I prefer to leave it in autofocus. But, you know, nonetheless, it is still a pretty decent one. They do have, I think it's the BM5WR series or something like that, Portkeys have. You can control red cameras and stuff, and those ones are slightly pricier. I think they're about $750 or $740, I'm not sure, something like that. It's about double the price of this one, a little bit less than double, but you know, overall, it's better to have this than obviously a smartphone. But with the smartphone, you do actually have the new Image Edge app with the Sonys, and controlling your A7IV is actually quite good because you can touch focus with this one as well, and object track, and it just really depends on what you're going to be doing. But overall, having this has more versatility than controlling your camera with your smartphone, because you don't want a call to come through while you're, you know, filming stuff. But this is really great. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. That would be absolutely amazing. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. The link will be in the description below of the website of Portkeys, so you can see, obviously, if your camera is compatible with this thing. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you guys in the next one. All right, let's get it.